Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist, where you'll learn all the hacks you need to get started and finished on your business or project. You'll connect with successful entrepreneurs who are in perfectionist rehab, unapologetically experimenting and balancing life, business, family, and me time. I'm your host and Chief Recovering Perfectionist, Claire Barton. Hello, Recovering Perfectionist. It's Claire, and I'm here with the beautiful Kate Toon. Good morning, Kate. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Now, for everyone who's listening/watching, Kate and I met in about May 2017. I had secretly been stalking her for quite a while before then, but Kate was speaking at the Artful Business Conference early in 2017, and I was pretty blown away by all the things. I haven't even told you this, Kate, but I literally have a folder on my Google Chrome bookmarks bar thingy full of Kate Toon SEO expert stuff. And there's about 50 different things that you just mentioned kind of in passing, and I was frantically trying to keep up with all the amazing stuff that you were throwing at me. I've gone back and checked some of it, and some of it has just blown my mind so far, and I can't wait to talk to you about all that sort of thing. But you're probably more articulate at talking about who you are and what you do and all the million amazing things. So maybe you can intro yourself and then we can have a bit of a chat about a heap of stuff.
Yeah, okay. We talked about this before we came online. Like, what should you call me? And it's a question that I struggle with, because I guess I could call myself an entrepreneur, but it just sounds incredibly wanky, so I don't like to do that. So I often refer to myself as just a small business owner. But I guess my business, I've got kind of 3 businesses, I think. I've got my copywriting business where I do copywriting for clients. I don't do as much of that as I used to, but that's what I built my business on. Mm-hmm. I have a SEO learning hub where I have big courses, small courses, and a podcast. And I run workshops and things. And then I have my Clever Copywriting School where I have a shop, directory, membership, a podcast, courses, and I run little workshops on that as well. So those
all
are
the things.
All the things.
All of the things. It's pretty awesome. So obviously when I first connected with you, it was over the SEO stuff, and I knew a little bit about SEO before then, but kind of really just only what it stood for and not actually how it worked and all of that sort of thing. I'd tried before, but what I really loved was that you made it accessible and understandable, and I could actually kind of get my tiny little brain around what the hell it actually meant and how it could work for me and all of that sort of thing. So I totally love that. But at the same time, I also realized that you'd written a book called Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur, and I was like, I think I'm gonna like this woman.
Oh, there it is. Look, there it is. There.
Amazing. Yes.
Okay.
I love it. And obviously this is called the Recovering Perfectionist, so I feel like there's a massive, like, we totally get it. And I say exactly, we're like this, we're like synergy. And I sent you a message a few weeks ago because we were totally gelling over some funny blog, I think something that you'd written, and even my dad had, because I'd shared it and my dad had read it. He was like, I think you'd really like her. I'm like, yeah, I know, I do like her. That's why I posted, and I said I really like this woman and her blog. Anyway, I think you guys would get along really well, and I'm like, I know, she's so cool, but we totally on the same page.
I love that your dad is checking out your Facebook page, though. Go dads!
Go dad! Thanks, Dad.
I've just had my dad on my podcast, which was very interesting. So on the next episode of my pod, so I'm interested to see what people think of that one.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. What did you talk about? Segue, what did you talk about?
We talked about stuff and things, being an entrepreneur, his experience. He's 70, so he's done a few things. He's quite wise.
Cool. Excellent. Awesome. Back to the book. Tell me about Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur. How did you write it? Why did you write it? When did you write it? What's in it? What can we expect?
I wrote it because I really wanted to write a book, and that sounds really sort of shallow, but I think it's a completely valid thing to want to do. I'm a big reader myself, and I'd written a kids book and a poetry book, but I really wanted to write a book that would support my business. I didn't want to write about copywriting and SEO, like a how-to book. The thought didn't excite me. So I thought it would be more interesting to sort of talk about my journey to where I'm at, and not fully self-indulgent, like, I am awesome, look at me, but really all the stupid things I've done and all the mistakes I've made and all the things that everyone else says you have to do, for example, like have a business plan, that I never did, And it all has worked out absolutely fine, because I just felt that the whole business rules, you must do this and you must have that and these are the process steps, and it's just all such nonsense, and all of us beat ourselves up about the fact that we haven't done this thing or we're not like that person, and it's exhausting. So I kind of wanted it to be an example of someone who's a bit scruffy. If you'd have seen me 5 minutes ago before Claire Barton told me that we were videoing this, you would have seen a bit scruffy, that doesn't have many hours a week, that doesn't want a team or a trendy office, who can still be good at businessy things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at the conference, one of your workshops was on that exact thing. So it was, you talked a lot about, not having to keep up with the Joneses, not having to do all the things that is either a little bit stuffy or misaligned to you or old fashioned and all of that sort of thing. And I was like, yes, thank goodness, finally. Like, it was just so refreshing when someone says something that's so different to what 99% of other people are saying, and not just for the sake of saying it because it's different, but actually that's what actually can work. Like, you don't have to scale. You don't have to have the big teams. It's not about building a business that replicates a job that you left because you hated it anyway. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I totally dig it. So in terms of that, what were some of the things that, like in the book, what were some of the things that you tried that didn't work, and why? Like, what's the alternative to it? Is the alternative to just not have any of that stuff at all, or to scale it down, or
I guess one of the first ones was a business plan, and I downloaded one from the ATO and looked at it and thought,
oh, sorry, I fell asleep when you mentioned ATO. Sorry about that.
Exactly. So I didn't want to do one of those, so I didn't. The other one is, constantly having to set goals and targets, which I immediately, as soon as you say to me, set a goal, I will do everything else apart from reaching that goal. I remember I set myself a goal to have 5,000 followers on Instagram. Why? No reason, just wanted to have that number. I have still not achieved it. But in the meantime, I've done 20 other things. So as soon as you tell me, here's your goal, I'm like, I'm going to ignore that and do something else. So goals was another one. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have things that you strive for, but constantly giving yourself levels to meet is just setting yourself up for misery, because you miss them, then you feel like a failure. So, set yourself a goal of 1 new follower of Instagram and then be like, yeah, I did it. I just think there's too much like dream big, stretch it, whatever. And the other thing I think for me has been team. So everybody has said to me, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that. You could really scale this. Why don't you scale it? And it's like, why? Why would I do that? I earn a decent amount of money. I work school hours. I have a nice life. Why am I scaling it? To earn more money, to buy things that I don't need, to spend less time with my kids, I've only got one. What's the point? It's scaling for the sake of scaling, and it's most of the things I feel that people are driven to do in the entrepreneur world are often driven by ego rather than actually rational reasons. I want to do this because it's going to make me look good. I want to do this because she's done it. And when you really come down to it and go, really all you want is a bit of money to maybe do the odd nice thing and some, wine-driven online shopping once in a while, time with your family, a nice life, fun, enjoy your work. That's all we all really want, I think. I mean, some of us are driven and want big CFOs of huge corporations, but I didn't. And recognizing that I didn't saved me a lot of trouble along the way,
Yeah. And is it a personality type thing or an archetype? I know there's a lot of talk about different, and I don't know enough about them to even give an example really, but there's some people who are like, say, the rebel. I chatted with Lynette Delane on the podcast recently, and I think she was talking about Gretchen Rubin's 4 personality tendencies, I think they were called, and one of them was the rebel, and it obviously sounds like probably your space in terms of going like, give me a goal and I'll do all the other things. It's not where I'm going. Is it a personality type thing, or is it
I just think it's a human thing. I'm not a fan of the whole IMFK rebel. I don't want to kind of put myself in a box that, there are only 4 different types of personality in the whole world. There aren't. There are 7 billion different types of personality. Yeah. I don't like putting and I know it's easy for people to do that because it helps explain their experience and identify with others. But for me, I've never really liked that. That's the truth. I'm a misfit. Do you know what I mean? That's how and so I think sometimes I conform, sometimes I do the things, sometimes I'm ego driven. But, as soon as you start kind of labeling yourself, then you kind of have to be the rebel. and look at the bullet points and go, I don't know. I don't. For me, those labels don't apply.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I think, and I really love MBTI. I really dig that. And I guess when I was in corporate, it really helped me to kind of work out who's who in the zoo and why there were certain relationships and, communication styles and all of that sort of thing. I do totally dig that. But I also wonder sometimes if that becomes more than just an explanation, it actually becomes an excuse.
That's perfect.
So exactly what you just said. Like if you're a rebel, then you just go, oh, well, I'm a rebel. So oh, well, can't do that sort of thing. Yeah, so I totally agree. That's really interesting.
Yeah, they're fun. And they're really fun and they can be helpful. And I think when I was younger, they would have been helpful because you don't know who you are and you don't know what your strengths are. But I think, I'm edging into my mid-40s and, all the things that I am, they're probably not going to change that much now. And, I kind of know who I am and not some of the things that I am aren't great, but they're just me and I have to accept them,
Yeah. So in terms of navigating in a world where there is certain steps that that a lot of people would take or think, like I often talk about why I started this business was because I kept talking to people who had these amazing ideas or they wanted to do either a lifestyle change, start a business, do a project, whatever. And they kind of had, like they'd gone far enough down the thought pattern or down the thought process that they knew kind of roughly where it was going, what it was going to look like, all that sort of thing. And you'd talk to them 6 months later, 12 months later, 2 years later, like, how's that thing going? And they're like, oh, no, I'd never do it because I'm not, like, I need to have $10,000 in the bank before I can start a business, or I need to have traveled before, or I need to have had kids before, or I need to, like, the kids need to be at school, like all these things that they need to have, or I need to do another course, or I need to whatever, I need to have all the ducks in a row, which is never going to happen. So obviously they never get to do it for whatever reason. So in that sense, like I think the misfit entrepreneur thing is so appealing. Is it a thing that, like, is it a teachable system that you can teach people to be okay with, or is it a mindset thing? Is it a practical thing? Listen to me, I'm already going back into like, how do we get this out there?
No, what wonderful question. And it's ironic because when I started the Misfits group, I was like, there's never going to be a course, there's never going to be a program, this is not a 10-step thing to being a misfit. I think you're right when you say it's a mindset thing. It's an acceptance. For more than anything, I think it's an acceptance thing. Because, I have a line in the book about, if I'd waited for all my ducks to be in a row, that either be dead or very elderly. Do you know what I mean? They'd be very old ducks because they will never all be in a row. Yeah. And I think there's a commonly used phrase, imperfect action. It's never a good time to have a kid, ever. Like, well, I've got to wait until I've got a house and but the truth is you work it out and it's all fine.
So true.
Back and go, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the same is true of business. You don't need money. You need bravery. And yes, it definitely helps if you have someone supporting you, like a rich partner or very generous parents. But I didn't have either of those either. Yeah. My husband was self-employed. But sometimes you just got to do it and accept that it's going to be a bit poo. This is a really important point. This can be the meme. It's going to be a bit poo for a while. Not like I started my business and the first year was brilliant. It was a bit poo. I didn't have much money. I started my business when I was 5 months pregnant, so I had a baby. The first year was pretty rubbish. And there've been lots of fairly rubbish bits along the way, but you keep on going, and then you don't get to this nirvana. You never go, oh, I'm done now. I'm successful. Everything's great. But it does get better and it does get easier. So,
Yeah, I think he's exactly right. So it's partly about starting and it's partly about being okay with stopping. Like another one of those very often used like imperfect action is failing fast. Like fail fast, get up, dust yourself off, be okay with whatever happens in that part of the process, trust the process, blah, 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 blah. And all of these things I think are more easily said than done once you've gotten to the end of a process and realized that process is just a repetitive cycle, and you have your ups and you have your downs and you have everything in between. And when you're down, at some point you go, okay, I've been here before, and then it got okay, so I'm just going to ride this one out. And then it starts to like feel a little bit less disgusting because you know that
you're riding the roller coaster, but it becomes a bit more of a roller coaster like this, and you kind of anticipate things like the other day I had like a really bad day. I was just a cow all day. I was angry about everything. I was being nasty, snippy with people, and I was just able to recognize in the moment that I was just having a day where I was a bit of a cow, and that was okay.
Yeah.
And the other, I had a really important thing I wanted to say there. Oh, it's completely gone. There you go. My erudite point has gone, but I'm sure it will come.
Just after we stop recording, probably.
Yes, of course. I'll bring you up and you can edit it in.
We'll add it in. Yep. I'll do my best Kate Toon voice and see how we go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really important thing. And I think, you know, so I talk about the recovering perfectionist, and then the other 50%/80% of what I do is organizing all the little details behind the scenes. So they kind of seem like they're at odds with each other, because I'm like, just do things imperfectly, just do the imperfect action, just move forward in whatever way that you can. Like, progress is better than, like, done is better than perfect, whatever.
Yeah.
Moving forward is really important. And I know that a lot of the satisfaction actually comes for most people from the act of moving forward, not actually the result.
Yes.
But then on the other side, I'm like, actually, let's get all this stuff behind here organized to the point that it feels good for you. It doesn't have to be to the point that it feels good for me. I'm anal retentive at the best of times. So things are probably going to be like, you know, like this, and you pick where you're at on the spectrum. But for a lot of people, I think, and for most of the people who I work with, it's definitely about, like, I know that I need to move forward, but I know I'm also not going to unless I've got a bit of a safety net.
Yes.
So that for me is what that is sort of creating. So do you think everyone has some level of a safety net that they need to be able to take that plunge into being okay with it being crap, and being okay with it being hard, and being okay with failing and all of that sort of thing? Or is it kind of just about...
No, I agree. And I think, you know, although I'm like, hey, go crazy, do your thing, I think there are certain things that just are essential. I mean, I think one thing that kept me going for the first couple of years was the idea that I could always get a job.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And I probably felt that up until about 2 years ago, where now I feel I'm unemployable. But it's like, what's the worst that can happen? I can fall on my bottom, but I can always go and get a job. I can always be a temp. I can always get a job. You know, I'm not going to die being an entrepreneur. Yeah. So that was a really important safety net for me. But I think there are some basic things you need to have. Like, I would say you really need a website. And I know that's a big challenge for people, but you can knock up a website in a day. Do my course, it's awesome. But you really can. You need to have an idea of what you need to have a why. You need to have a spreadsheet where you're going to record your money. You need a computer. You need some self-confidence, and you need some people that you can talk to about your stuff. So that's why groups are really great. And look, I am a big advocate for investing in intelligence that you don't have. So if you don't have, like, you know, I come from an advertising background, websites and email, that's my language. But if I was somebody who'd worked in insurance, and then I came to start this, I wouldn't have a clue. And it's absolutely fine to find someone that you want to follow, someone like you who can say, well, these are the steps, this is what you need to do, and you can invest in yourself. But just don't invest too much, and know when the investing has to stop.
Yes.
Talked about serial course takers and serial mastermind doers, and they're pouring money into stuff and they've earned nothing, you know. It's a hard line, and a hard line to define, I think, for a lot of people as well.
It is a hard one, and I'm thrifty at the best of times. I'm not a great money spender, unless, like you said, there's been 1 or 2 glasses of wine consumed and I'm sitting at home and my husband's already asleep or watching TV and distracted. Not that I've ever done that, of course, it's not my thing.
Of course not.
But yeah, so I'm definitely of the lean startup variety anyway, but like the super lean startup. So all the things that I could probably have even done on the cheap, I found a free version.
Yeah.
And I think what that allowed me to do was I took the pressure off myself, because I didn't have to spend a heap of money, but I also didn't have to like understand and do everything perfectly, because I was testing things out, and I didn't feel like I've just spent $5,000 on this thing, I better bloody well make that back in the next month. It's like I've literally, I think in my startup phase, I was making money before I spent any money. And even in the whole first year, my expenses were less than, I don't know, $5,000. And that included doing my own website. I signed up to a couple of courses that helped me learn how to do my own website and learn my messaging and learn how to blog and all the other things. Like, you can get really smart with where you send your money and your energy and that sort of thing. But I think you're exactly right. And it's one of the scariest things when you're either in startup or in a more established business, because you're handing the keys over to your baby, which is what a lot of us would use the term, like our business is literally a part of us, and it's scary to give someone else the keys to that. And also it's a bootstrapping, and I'm trying to save money, and also it's all these other things. But like, I teach a lot about outsourcing and automating, and even getting someone like a VA to help with 5 hours a week just to do some of the stuff that you don't want to do. And one of my big lessons that people probably heard me say before, that when I first started working with a VA, I was like, oh, but it's admin. Like, that's part of my background. I'm really fast at this. No one's going to be as good at it as I am. I'll just do it, and all that sort of thing. And a lot of people have the block where it was just quicker for me to do it myself than to teach someone else how to do it, right? Which is totally a thing for the first time. Every time after that, it shouldn't be the case. But I said to one of my very first VAs, okay, here's this job, whatever it was. And I thought to myself, it'll probably take me about an hour. She'll definitely be slower at it than me. So I'll say, just let me know how you go after 2 hours, where you're up to. And of course, she came back 45 minutes later and was like, yep, that's done. What's next? And I'm like, oh,
yay!
She must have done something wrong. Went and checked it. Oh, it's perfect. Oh, it's better than I would have done. Oh, okay, fine. And because it's her job, like that, she's a professional. She does that thing, and that's her sole thing. So of course she's going to be faster, better, and more efficient at it. And it took a few goes like that for me to go, okay, fine, you do you, and I'll just stay over here and do my stuff, which is just so perfect. And when you can get over that for the little things, and I always say, start with something un-F-uppable, something that even if everything goes pear-shaped, it hasn't pissed off everyone and you haven't lost all your clients or stolen your money or something like that. Like, hand things out that aren't super critical to start with, just to get your confidence level of going, okay, they're not here to steal my stuff and ruin my business and my reputation or whatever, and then build up to things. Because, yeah, exactly, like the whole reason that we start our own businesses is, like you said before, spend more time with the people we want to, spend more time doing the things we want to do, and less time doing the shit that we're just doing because our bosses told us we had to, so that we could get paid at the end of the week.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
But I also think that by being a bootstrapper and by doing all the things yourself, it makes you a more holistic business owner. Like, if my VAs and my team disappeared tomorrow, I could still do every aspect of my business. Yeah. And sometimes I take pleasure in the boring aspects. I love to do some zero reconciliation. That's my pleasure, and there's nothing wrong with that. I get to choose. It's my business. I didn't get a VA until about 6 years into my business. Mm-hmm. Played around with it. I would also say as well that although I am I'm bad now, anti-course, or I'm anti-paying for things, I do realise now in retrospect that I could have got there much faster if I had done some education. But I struggled to find someone that I trusted. When I started out, it's 10 years ago nearly now, there weren't all these millions of e-courses by everybody doing everything. So it's been a longer journey, but therefore I feel like I've learned more and I'm more solid. I don't know what you think about you. Learning it yourself will take longer, is harder, but it's more gratifying in a way as well.
I think there's a bit of a balance. Like, there's some things, I've always been the sort of person, I'll try anything, and if I don't get good at it really quickly, I don't go any further. I sort of think there's enough things that I am really good at that I do enjoy doing. If it doesn't go that way, I'll persevere for a little while if it's something I really want to know, but there's so much other stuff kind of going on, and I feel like I've really found my niche. But exactly, like, same thing. If my VAs fell off the face of the earth, there'd probably be one or two things that I'd have to go back and check the workflow or SOP that I created 2 years ago so that they could do it, just to make sure that I was doing it right. And it might be a bit patchy, but yeah, I could definitely do it all myself. It probably would take me a little bit longer or whatever, but that's totally fine. But yeah, I totally agree that also it's really important to know at least a little bit about all of the things, because exactly like you said, if your VA disappears, if the system blows up, if something goes wrong, you need to be there to pick up the pieces, retrain a new person, all that sort of thing. But also for quality control, like, so you can make sure that it's the best version that it could be, or keeping up to date with something that's changing, so that you can make sure that the people who are doing it for you are also on top of that, even if it's just asking a question, even if you don't know the answer. Yes, you've kind of got to know a little bit about all of those things so that you can make sure that it's getting done to the standard that you want to get it done. So it's definitely about finding a balance with everything, though, isn't it? Like, if you talk about something like accounting, for example, I'm not going to go and do an accounting course just so I know how to do my tax return, of course. But I do want to know enough about my income and my profit and my expenses that I know I can answer the questions of those people and sound like a half decent and half intelligent.
Exactly. I mean, that's That's my world with SEO. You know, that's what
Yeah.
that's my complete mantra. That I'm not expecting everyone to go out there and offer SEO as a service, or even necessarily do every aspect of SEO themselves, but to be more confident about the subject matter, so that when someone comes along and says, "Hey, your site's broken. You need to do this, and this," you can go, "Actually, no, I don't. Take me for a ride, because I know that I don't need to do that." That's what I'm all about.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a protection thing as well.
Yeah. Cover your bottom.
Cool. Oh, I love it. Oh, gosh, we could just talk for hours and hours about all of this thing. So in terms of being a misfit entrepreneur, like if you came up, if someone came to you and they kind of described yourself 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that, and the process that you were in about discovering that you didn't need all the bells and whistles and you didn't need to do everything that everyone else was doing just for the sake of it, what are some of the top kind of tips or tools or hacks that you would give them to be able to move forward and not end up rocking themselves to sleep in a corner?
I think, so I really transformed my business from being a exchanging money for time business, you know, the classic passive income. So I do think if there's any way that you can build something into your business that sells without you having to do anything, that's really powerful, because you have that residual income coming in. I do think, you know, you need to pick a few platforms. I'm a big user of, I'll use Basecamp for a while and Asana, just to try and find better ways of communicating, being more efficient. For me, it was always looking at ways of doing things smarter.
Yeah.
So here's my process. It's got 12 steps in it. Why does it have 12 steps in it? I remember I was once explaining something to a VA. It took me nearly an hour to explain the whole process. And at the end of it, I said, you know what? This isn't really stupid. We're not going to do this anymore. So we just stopped doing that thing. It was about posting jobs on a directory, and it just 17 steps. And I was like, why don't we just not do this anymore? And she was like, that's a good idea. So I think looking for efficiency, I think you really have to make the use of the time that you've got.
Yeah.
I use things like Toggle to track my time, to track my billable time versus my non-billable time. You know, all the productivity things, it seems so cliched, you know, doing 3 things when you sit down at your desk, before you even turn your email on. The first thing you do every day makes you money, blah, 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 blah. But really, I guess my biggest tip would be being on top of money. You know, I know many people are into the whole money mindset, money blocks thing. I haven't done that course, everybody. I know everyone else has, but I haven't. But I've always been very conscious of what money is mine. Truly mine, and therefore not spending anything that I don't have, not indulging my business. It's not a hobby, it's not an indulgence. I'm not playing here. I'm trying to bring income into my family. So I think being on top of money would be my biggest tip for getting started.
I couldn't agree more. It's one thing, and like I'm not nowhere near being a bookkeeper or anything like that, but it's something like I am a total Excel spreadsheet geek. So that's where I played for a long time. I use Wave now, and I've used that for a long time. But it still really surprises me to know that there are people who have had businesses for a long time and don't know how much money they make, or don't know what they're spending money on a regular basis, don't know what their subscriptions are, that sort of thing. It's frustrating, and it kind of makes me a little bit sad, because it's probably like there's so many reasons to it. I'm not a money mindset coach either, but I just think it's, like you said, it's not a hobby. If you want to do a hobby, then do a hobby, that's fine. But you've got to treat it like it's your job, like your income almost. Like it doesn't have to feel as mundane as a lot of jobs do. That's the whole idea. But you wouldn't go to work for someone else for no money. So why do you do it for yourself? And I think the other thing that kind of ties into that for me is the time factor. Like you've got to, I'll work with someone and we'll do like a master schedule and put in there, starts off blank. What are all the things that you want to be doing weekly, daily, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, blah, 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 for yourself, your finances, your customer service, your content, your marketing, your social, blah, 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 all these things. And when we look at it all very holistically, you've created a 70-hour-a-week business, but you only have 25 hours, and you also have to do all the life stuff as well. So actually you've only got 20 hours, but you've got this 70-hour-a-week business, and you don't know if you're making any money or not. Ding, 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 ding. There's something going on here. Like, let's pare it back. And exactly like you said, you don't have to be doing all the things that everyone else is doing or that everyone says you're doing. If it doesn't actually yield a thing that you want it to be yielding. So if you're in like, say Instagram, for example, and you're spending an hour a day creating posts and doing this and researching hashtags and all that sort of thing, and you've got 500 followers and it's never, ever yielded any connection, personal development or sales, well, what's the point? Take it back. Stop doing it.
Instagram was going to be my example, and I'm not down on Instagram. It works very well for many people, but Instagram for me is just a step too far. I do not have the time. Maybe I have had customers through it, but I just can't be bothered. And to do it, I would have to take time out of my real life to do Instagram. So the question I always ask myself about anything is, what would I rather be doing? I love my job. I really do. And some people don't seem to get that. Like, you're always working. You love it. It's because I really enjoy it. It makes me happy. I enjoy other things too, but there's nothing wrong with really enjoying your job. It's not a crime, you know. And sometimes, yes, I do enjoy it more than making dinner for my family. Oh, what a terrible person I am. That's just the truth. But if I am offered to do something and I think to myself, what would I rather be doing? It's a really great question. So often I'm asked to do like evening webinars because that's when mums are available. And I just made a decision last year that I don't enjoy doing them. I don't want to do them. I would rather be watching Married at First Sight in my pants in bed. So that's a choice that I make. And yes, it may mean I miss out on something. And yes, I may not get those customers, but it doesn't fit my life. It doesn't fit my business. And it doesn't, as you said, I love that, doesn't yield benefit, doesn't money, but got to evaluate. Do I want to be doing it? Is it making me money? Do people want it? Those are my three. That's why I talk about in the book. And if it doesn't tick all of them, then really think about it, you know? So you do a lot of things that you enjoy doing that people want, but if it's not making you money, that's a hobby. You can do things that make you money that people want, but that you don't enjoy. And then it's like, well, why are you doing your own business? You know, the three circles are important.
Oh, it's so true. Exactly. We're all so time poor, and I really hate that term. We've all got exactly the same amount of hours, blah, blah, blah. But it really does come back to going, like we talked about this a lot in the very early days of the podcast. If I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Yes. If I say no to this, what am I saying yes to? And you've got to answer that question about everything. And whether you either drop it or you outsource it or you automate it or you just stop doing it altogether, or you find a different way to do it or find something else to get rid of, there has to be a trade-off. So I'm all about, like one of my big reasons, again, of starting this and a big message was that kind of you can have your cake and eat it too. You can be a really great, present, fun mum and also a successful business person and also a great friend and also a person who gets massages every week and also have a great relationship. Like you don't have to pick and just be one of those things. But you've got to be smart about it and you've got to trade stuff off. You've got to compromise. Like it doesn't all... It's that saying I saw recently, you can do anything, but not everything.
Yeah,
you can do everything you want, but you can't do everything right now. Like you got to trade some stuff off. And it's not to say you have to sacrifice. I hate that word. You don't have to give stuff up. You just got to be really smart about it.
That's it. And you find out, sorry, someone came into my little Toon cave and I was like, please don't speak. Poor thing. But one thing as well is when you do start deciding and making your own boundaries and deciding what you do and what you don't want to do, then other things come up, like what you say yes to. So, I made that decision not to do evening things anymore. And someone else will now do evening things and talk about copywriting and SEO. It just won't be me. But then other things come up that I can then do. It's, there's
totally
stuff to go around. I'm going to use the phrase, it makes me slightly... abundance mindset, people.
Yeah.
There's to go around. There's always
not in luck here.
Around the corner.
Yeah. And the whole, like something that I think I only truly understand for the first time probably in my life in the last year or so is that whole one door closes, another one opens. But it's always one door closes, 12 others open up because you've got that headspace and that mindset to be open to things. And I don't know, there's probably no more around. It's just that you're open to it and you can like, I don't know, stuff comes to you. As soon as you said, the first time I said no to a client because the level she was at was like, I couldn't really help her that much, I didn't think. So I said no. And it was someone I really wanted to work with and I was devastated to have to say no, but I couldn't conscionably take her money because I don't think I could help her. But as soon as I did that and I had my little, oh my God, what have I done moment, like all these other people came and I'm like, you guys are perfect. But if I'd said yes, I would have spent so much time worrying about over delivering and what else could I do and keeping her happy and all of that sort of thing, that the other stuff wouldn't have happened. So it was just, and that sort of thing happens all the time. So I'm totally.
And you have to be positive. Recently I submitted to speak at an event and I didn't get it, and I was a bit gutted, and I was like, oh, you know, that's poo. And then, you know, I did feel quite down about it. Like I had at least a couple of hours where I was like, you know, maybe I've lost my touch. And then, you know, then I looked at the thing. It was like, actually, I couldn't really have done it. The time was bad. And then, you know, it is cheesy and it does sound a bit woo-woo. But the next day, someone asked me to speak at something else that was actually much better for me. It was a better time. But it does sound a bit woo-woo. But the woo-woo stuff is true sometimes.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
You know?
I just want to sit here and geek out on all the imperfect action stuff with you forever.
Forever. We should do another 4-hour session, just us, where we just agree with each other for 4 hours.
Exactly. We'll just do the virtual high fives from across Australia. You'll be able to hear it somewhere in the ether.
Yes.
All right. Awesome chatting with you. How can people get in touch with you? I know you're absolutely everywhere and you've got a fairly unique name. It's not too hard to find you.
Pretty
I certainly did.
Yes.
But what's going on? How can people touch base with you? How do we get more Kate Toon in our lives?
Well, if you really want more Kate Toon, I'm frankly sick of myself. But if you type Kate Toon into Google, you'll find something that I do. And, you know, whether you are trying to start off with your SEO journey or you know, I don't offer business advice like Claire does. I don't offer that as a service, but I definitely have lots of groups where I pass on tips and advice in a kind of more informal way. So just Google Kate Toon and thankfully you should be able to find me. I hope
Absolutely. And you do have lots of beautiful Facebook groups, which are super fun. And basically anything that you've ever written, I love and is hilarious and digestible and useful as well, which is always good. So
your dad loves me too. So thank you, Claire.
It's a family affair.
Excellent. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. It's really nice to meet some like-minded who, good.
Awesome chatting with you. I will see you again in a couple of weeks. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
And thank you very much.
Bye. And that is absolutely it, my lovely. So I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. It was great fun recording that one, as it is with all of them. If you'd like to connect, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I have a beautiful Facebook group community at bit.ly/the Recovering Perfectionist crew with all capital TRP and C. I have a massive goal this year to get 50,000 downloads on my podcast, and I've got a YouTube show as well. So I'd love for you to help me out if you can by either subscribing to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want to go over and do that now, that would be awesome. If you have a couple of favourite episodes, or if there's one favourite episode that you've really enjoyed, I would love you to share that with anyone who you think would get as much out of it as you have as well. And while you're in iTunes, if you can jump in and give it a review, that would be amazing. iTunes definitely helps out podcasts that have got some good ratings and reviews and some really interactive listeners. So I would really appreciate your help with getting to my goal of 50,000 in 2017. The show is also available over on YouTube. The links are always in the show notes, so you can head over there. So it's The Recovering Perfectionist on YouTube. There's a channel for that as well. So jump in and leave your comments. You can watch all of the episodes in video. So if you want to see what we look like and our crazy hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that sort of thing, absolutely jump in. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel show as well, and then you'll be kept up to date when there's some new episodes that come in there. So love your support. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's hello@clairebarton.com.au. Always happy to receive your emails and open up a conversation. All right, big love. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.